Yo, what is up, y'all? My name is Robert Donaldson, and welcome back to another edition of Rob's Best Bets. And in this video, we are once again talking about college hoops. And on Friday, we split. We went 1-1, and that Dayton VCU game was a really fantastic game. Really could have gone either way down the stretch, but VCU had the final run in them, going for a 10-0 run in the final 4 minutes, which kind of put the dagger in us. But when you are looking at that Friday slate, I'm glad that's over. St. John's UConn was a ton of fun as well, but 7 total games, I mean, come on, man. That's just crazy. I don't know how the schedule makers aren't really giving us a treat on a Friday, every single Friday, but I rest my case. We have a fantastic slate of games here on Saturday that I am so excited to take part in and show you guys our bets. We are touching on a lot of different conferences, and by a lot, I'm just kind of looking down the list. It looks like 8 or 9 different conferences that we will have a bet in tomorrow. So excited for that. But before we jump into the picks, I do want to shout out today's sponsor, which is Underdog Fantasy. And if you aren't following me over on Twitter/X at RobDFB, make sure you go and do that. And make sure you are signing up over at Underdog using promo code RobDFB, because we will have 2 different player entries for tomorrow. I love the pick'em side or pick'em variety that Underdog offers, and whether or not you're a college basketball fan or college football or NFL or NBA, there's a market for you on this platform in any sport, and definitely go ahead, add that to your rotation. But with all that being said, y'all, I'm ready to hop into these Saturday picks. All right, first up, we are heading out to the Sun Belt MAC Challenge, and I really love this. I wish other conferences would implement it, especially later on in the season like they're doing it on Saturday here. And when you're looking at this matchup between Troy and Miami of Ohio, these are 2 teams that are at the top of their leagues, but the Sun Belt is a much better league, and as we saw last season, the Sun Belt kind of ran shop or cleaned up house against the MAC conference, and I do think that Troy is a much better team in this matchup here. So let's go ahead and take Troy on the money line for 3 units for our first bet here on Saturday. For pick number 2, we're heading out to Bloomington, Indiana, where we have Michigan taking on the Hoosiers. And the big news coming out of the Hoosiers program this week was that Mike Woodson is expected not to be back next season. And that kind of lends itself to a couple questions. One, if they do make the NCAA tournament, which they absolutely have a shot of doing, what happens if they go on a run? And the second part of that as well is, do these players kind of resign themselves to, the season being over and or just kind of give up? Or do they show up for their head coach who's basically being forced to resign? And I do think it's going to be the latter. I think this is still a talented team, and obviously a team that bought into Coach Woodson and came to Indiana. And for that reason, I think they get up here against the Wolverines. So let's go ahead and take the Hoosiers, getting the 3 points at home for 2 units for our second bet here on Saturday. For pick number 3, we are heading out to Iowa City, where we have Wisconsin taking on Iowa. And in this matchup, the last time we saw it, it was in Madison, and the Badgers absolutely bludgeoned the Hawkeyes. And then there was some kind of post-game comments that came out about Iowa and their unwillingness to play defense, essentially, and the Badgers knowing about that coming into the game. And I do think that kind of stuck with the Hawkeyes. And what we're going to see down the stretch for the Iowa Hawkeyes as well is whether or not they're bought into Fran, because for Ed McCaffrey, this is probably his final season coaching the Iowa Hawkeyes, and I do think that pride has to come out at some point. I do think this is a get-up spot, and I think they played well last time out against Purdue. So let's go ahead and take the 5.5 points here for 3 units for our third bet here on Saturday. For pick number 4, we are heading out to the Patriot League, and the Patriot League has been making us some real good money over the past few weeks here, and we're going to be taking a look at a matchup here between American and Lehigh, and Lehigh and Brett Reed have been our team as of late. And what I really love about these mid-majors is, throw out the win-loss record. Who really cares at this point? It's all about how you're coming to the season or coming to the close of your season. And Lehigh is playing some of the best ball in this league right now, and American just kind of got bludgeoned on the road against Bucknell, and it was a first place style game as well. I think that Lehigh has a really good chance at doing the exact same thing in this matchup. So let's go ahead and take the money line price here with Lehigh for 3 units for our 4th bet here on Saturday. For pick number 5, we are heading out to the Big East, where we have Marquette taking on Creighton, and Creighton has had an absolute roller coaster of a season. They had a lot of promise. They started off really slow, and then they hit some injury bugs along the way, including Pop Isaacs, who probably won't play again this season, which is a real big bummer. But they have been playing some really good ball as of late. They still have a decent shot, or at least an outside chance, at winning the Big East. Didn't help that St. John's is kind of rolling through everybody, rolling through the top dogs here, but I think Creighton is going to be able to play up here against a Marquette team that I'm not fully bought into, and for that reason, I say we go ahead and lay the 2.5 points here with the Blue Jays in Omaha for 2 units for our 5th bet here on Saturday. For pick number 6, we are heading out to the Horizon League, where we have Northern Kentucky taking on Robert Morris, and Robert Morris has been red hot. They've been playing some really good basketball, and in this matchup, Northern Kentucky is laying once again kind of a suspicious line. Last time out, they beat Cleveland State, and they were actually the favorites in that game, inexplicably, because they haven't had a great season under Darren Horn here. But I'm going to introduce you guys to a name that you will want to remember come conference tournament time, and that name is Dan Gerziger. And yeah, it's a mouthful. He's a transfer in from the D2 ranks last season, and he just got inserted into the starting lineup in that Cleveland State game, or actually 2 games ago against Oakland, and then also against Cleveland State. And he is absolutely shooting lights out at the moment. He's just been making every single 3. He's elevated this offense, and in this game, I think he's going to do the exact same thing here for the Norse. So let's go ahead and lay that 1.5 points here for 3 units for our 6th bet here on Saturday. For pick number 7, we are heading out to the SEC, where we have Texas A&M taking on the Missouri Tigers, and Missouri is one of those teams that I think is getting really nationally disrespected because their resume is a top 10 resume in all of college basketball, in my opinion. And they're getting slotted in that 15 to 20 ranking area right now. But man, this is a big time game to get up for and get it done and kind of solidify your spot inside that top 10. I think they go ahead and do it. So let's go ahead and lay the 2.5 points here with Missouri for 2 units for our 7th bet here on Saturday. For pick number 8, we are staying in the SEC, and we are taking a look at what I think is honestly the game of the day in college basketball between Florida and Auburn. And I don't think it's crazy to think that this could be the national championship game if both of these teams end up on opposite sides of the bracket. And when you're looking at Florida and just their makeup, I'm absolutely in love with it, especially once we get to those tournaments. But Auburn on the other side has absolutely been rolling. So something does have to give. This is a hefty line. I think people are going to be kind of wanting to bet on Florida because they are a good team and they're catching a lot of points. And call me a sucker, but I think that Florida does keep this thing close. This is one of those bets that if you want to hold off, I wouldn't blame you just because it is a trappy looking line. Like this looks like potentially it could be an Auburn, 15-point win. But just on the paper standpoint, based on the eye test and based what we see just from the analytics side of things as well, I do think Florida keeps it close here. So let's go ahead and take the 9.5 points with the Gators for 2 units for our 8th bet here on Saturday. For pick number 9, we're heading out to the CAA, where we have Towson taking on Monmouth. And in this game, Towson is one of the hotter teams in the entire country based on how they're running through their regular season conference schedule. And when you're looking at this game against Monmouth, as of late, Monmouth has been playing some really inspiring basketball. And this was a young team coming into the season. I think they've started to find it. They're catching 5.5 points here at home against a team that might kind of overlook a team like Monmouth. And for that reason, I say we go ahead and take those points for 2 units for our 9th bet here on Saturday. For pick number 10, we are heading out to the Big 12 where we have BYU taking on Cincinnati, and Wes Miller and Cincinnati here in year 2 in the Big 12 have not been inspiring because the other 2 newcomers to the league over the past couple seasons, or I guess there's a lot of newcomers to the league, but Cincinnati has been the worst one, unfortunately, and that's not how this should have gone, especially coming off of the Mick Cronin era. It kind of felt like Wes Miller was a slam dunk hire coming from North Carolina, Greensboro, and when you're looking at this matchup in particular, I do think that Cincinnati has to find a way to get up and win this game, not only for Wes Miller, but just for their standing within the Big 12, and I do think they do it. I say we bet it confidently here for 3 units, taking the Bearcats on the money line for our 10th bet here on Saturday. For pick number 11, we are heading out to the Missouri Valley Conference where we have Illinois State taking on Northern Iowa, and Northern Iowa has been playing some really great basketball. They are coming off of a beatdown against Bradley and then a win on the road against Missouri State, and that was a scrappy battle. And in particular, this is one of those games that I don't think has an official rivalry billing, but has absolutely the feel of it being a rivalry because Northern Iowa has knocked out Illinois State from Arch Madness, their conference tournament, over the years a few different times, in particular during a championship game. And ever since then, these have been really fun games to watch with lesser Illinois State teams. And Illinois State this year, I think, has been playing some really great ball. And for that reason, getting 5.5 points, I'm all over it. So give me the Redbirds here, getting the 5.5 for 3 units for our 11th bet here on Saturday. All right, for our final bet here on Saturday, we are heading out to Clemson, South Carolina, where we have Duke taking on the Clemson Tigers, and welcome back, Dick Vitale. I can't wait to hear Dickie V saying, "Oh, baby," as Clemson hits a shot or as Duke hits a shot. I think this atmosphere is going to be absolutely fantastic, and when you are looking at this game, I think we got a service done betting on Georgia Tech last game out because they took Clemson down to the wire and actually won the game outright. And I feel like that's actually pushing this line up and sort of limiting or lessening Clemson's sort of appeal in the betting market. And for that reason, I was all over Clemson coming into this game. This was a game that I've been highlighting for some time. And I say we go ahead and take the 7.5 points here for 4 units. And for a full extra unit, I say we take a stab on the Tigers on the money line here as well. All that being said, I really want to thank you guys for checking out today's video, and once again, I want to give you guys a big shout out for us eclipsing 4,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Just a surreal feeling, and hopefully we have a good Saturday here and have a really blossoming day as we try to, secure another profitable week. But with all that being said, y'all, as I always say, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.